First off, yes, I probably could have gotten a tighter shirt. And secondly, I want to talk about some of the things that really helped me start my process of torching off over 130 pounds of fat. And I was fat all of my life. I was fat as a child, not birth fat, but about 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. I started to put on quite a bit of weight then. And of course, I had some wonderful people around me that loved me very much that were not helping, not telling me, you know what, you shouldn't be eating that. You shouldn't eat this. Maybe you shouldn't eat so much. Maybe you shouldn't have a third and fourth serving. Maybe we shouldn't offer you different types of food all day long. And maybe food shouldn't be so readily available for you. If they maybe would have said, Honor, you're going to eat at breakfast, and you're going to eat at lunch, and you're going to eat at dinner, and you're going to have those meals are going to be prepared in just the same loving way as if I'm offering you meals and food throughout the day, then we'll see how that ends up. But unfortunately, it was back then when you had fat was the villain. So you had these mega companies coming out with fat food alternatives. So instead of using fat, they had to make the food taste good somehow. So of course they loaded it with sugar. And you can see that in the historical record. So I'm not saying anything that you can't research and find out. Some families did a great job. Other families, Midwestern families where I'm from, and even my parents, you can only blame them so far. And what I did is I blamed them, well, only so far. Then I got into life and I had developed an addiction to high sugary, high fat foods. So there it comes. So that was more and more of that food. So realistically, all of my life, through my adult years, I've been battling this. I've been fighting it. And I had gone on many diets. I've done them all probably. Caloric restriction in some way, of course, cutting the carbs, carnivore, paleo, whatever you want to call it, it all just continued. So that's how I tried to do it. It wasn't until I actually was told by a doctor who I guess is going to have to remain nameless, because when I went back to that doctor a couple years later, showing them my transformation and then talking about the book they recommended to me, which is Jason Fung's Obesity Code. And I'm not getting anything from Jason or Fung. I've never met him, never talked to him. But if you just crawl down that rabbit hole a little bit and watch some of the fasting videos he put together, it made sense. It was like, if you really want to be gangster, if you really want to be tough, try not eating for a little bit. Now, of course, everything needs to be in line, right? If you're taking medicine, you start going without food, maybe even a meal, it could have very negative consequences. So it's going to depend on what your doctor says and whatever medications you're on. I do know I ran into that with the insulin dilemma, having fasted for several days, still taking the medicines because I was type 2 diabetic, still taking those medicines, and then of course ended up getting sick as a result because there was nothing to do with my blood sugar anymore. That had very much become very normal, at least my experience with the fasting. So then I was able to stop those medications. But again, stopping medicine, super dangerous. Not eating for a while, maybe the same, but again, once you get your medical professional on board and do your research, I believe that that could be the game changer. Once I started to become comfortable missing a meal or two, I noticed that something else that popped into my head was, oh my God, you're going to lose all this muscle. Now, if you see the before and after pictures of me at 365, you don't see much in the way of muscle. You do see a lot of fat, a lot of fat. I have a video, and I'll probably throw it in here, of me just holding on to my belly. That was 365 pounds of fat person. And I'm holding on to that belly, just lifting it up. And I'm just surprised that that's where it was. But along with that, if you're like that a long time, I was 30, 40 years, up and down, up and down, up and down, finally to end up with more up than down at 365, you still develop a little bit of a tendency to think back and see yourself, even if you look a different way, kind of like that. Because after you've sustained some kind of okay shape for a while after being fat for a long time, the concern, the biggest worry is, oh my God, I don't want to fall back into that world. I don't want to get fat again. So then, as you're approaching food and you're looking at things, you start to become careful. So that's where this control comes in. What I noticed is before I go somewhere where I'm expecting to have food, I still think about it. I still think about what I'm going to be eating. And in some circumstances, it's so much easier to just say, I'm not going to eat when I go to this party. I'll fake it. I'll play spy, I'll play mole, I'll play whatever. Because if you have aunts or grandmas or even moms and dads that like to feed, they're feeder type people, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that because with that comes love, right? You're giving something to somebody that's going to sustain them. In hostage negotiation school, one of the things that the instructor talked about, I think he was from the FBI, he had mentioned that if you are ever taken hostage, one of the best things you can do is get your captor to feed you, give you something that sustains life, especially food. And if they're able to do that, then it makes it that much harder for them to kill you. Well, you get around family and friends, they're not trying to kill you with food, they're not trying to really kill you at all, but that's kind of a cool time to maybe think of it a different way where you act like you're eating, but you're really not. So you go through the whole time, and when you get done with that entire event and people think that you've been eating and you're very happy and you've just enjoyed it like everybody else, they're not going to notice. And then you walk away a pound or two lighter over the next couple of days because you're in a process of fasting. Again, I know it's kind of goes out in the weeds a little bit, but I had to really start putting all these mechanisms in place so I would make more right decisions than wrong decisions. Because if you're able to sustain right decisions a lot more than wrong decisions in the eating realm or the not eating realm, then actually over time you're going to get to a better place. I didn't say goal, and this is what I found out about goals. I had this envision of me at 230 pounds when I got to my least weight, 230 pounds. And I thought when I got there from 365 to 230, I thought, you know what, that's going to be the dream. That's going to be where I'm happy. I was happy, but not like I thought I would be. I wasn't let down, but it took me a little bit, but I realized that it's the journey. So I got rid of a majority of that weight, 80, 90 pounds rather quickly. And if you tell a doctor that I did that in 7 and a half, 8 months, they're going to say, oh, it's very unhealthy, it's not good for you, and understand. But it worked for me. And how I did that was longer fasts. It was almost like it was a punishment, but the reward was so great because with the fasting, I saw that scale reducing very quickly. So then back then, previously in this video, I was mentioning about the muscle. Well, so I was worried about the muscle. There's muscle under that fat, not the amount that I have today, because I was able to also start back in the day testosterone therapy. And the reason why that was started is because, not realizing it, I was wondering why I was tired all the time, lethargic all the time, not wanting to do anything. And even when I went to the gym, when I was able to get there, not having it built in as a habit now, but when I was able to get to the gym, that was also an issue because it was just unmotivated work. I wasn't there and getting excited about it. I wasn't on fire. The testosterone therapy, because my testosterone was under, I believe it was under 250 at the time, which is below the bottom end of normal. And if you do your research on what those normal ranges are, some of them were developed a long time ago when we have changed as a society. We've done some kind of evolution, we've changed. So those numbers, a lot of them are incorrect in the variables. Again, talk to your doctor. I'm no doctor, I don't have that education. But I've read that if you're at the bottom end of something, sometimes it's lower than you really need to be, being even at the bottom end. Crawl through that one if that makes sense. But I was at 250, and I believe the bottom range of normal testosterone in an adult male is somewhere in the 300s. So we're not talking about a lot. But when they do regulate it, I went to a doctor that also does themselves, they are on testosterone also, and it seemed like all the males that were associated with that clinic and that doctor, they were all in very good shape. And it was really just about normalizing what was amiss in the body. If somebody goes into a doctor and they have an issue, a doctor isn't going to be holding back from prescribing something that's going to make their body more normal. The same thing in hormone research. For women, I believe it's estrogen and progesterone, maybe. I don't know how that mechanism works, but those are the female hormones. And I know I've talked to ladies that are in their later years, and it's estrogen that they need. For the males, it comes down to the testosterone when they look at those levels, and they're incredibly low. They give you, and there's different ways to take it. You can stick these things under your skin or they implant them. That wasn't a thing for me. There's also a cream and a gel you rub onto your sack. That wasn't a thing for me. So moving into it, the injections were very difficult and very weird. Again, these are so personal, but it's a weird thing, but it worked. And when I got that testosterone normalized, I had that drive, and not an angry steroid rage, go out and want to beat up everybody drive, but an actual drive to want to just grab onto life and run with it. Just grab on and go out there and do it. When I went to the gym, it was a game changer. I didn't put on all this strength, and people say, well, you take it, you're going to get super strong. I do a lot of more high rep work. I do my rep ranges 15 and better, 15 to 25 and 30. It's more difficult to wear the muscle out when you're doing that, but I have that mind edge that you need to be able to do the high rep work, to go to failure high rep work and not give up before you get there. That takes a whole different level, and I kind of like that. As you can probably see with the fasting, it's something that people normally don't do because of all the things we've been told. You're gonna lose all your muscle mass. When you fast for a little bit, growth hormone gets secreted at a higher level. You can do your research on that, so that's gonna take care of you losing any muscle. Plus, muscle isn't something that the body normally burns for energy anyway. What do we burn for energy in the body? Well, all the incoming sugar and glucose, which we're eating because we have these horrible diets. We're eating the pastas, we're eating a lot of fruits, a lot of out of season fruits in a local level like bananas and oranges, and we're getting rid of the fiber. Over time, these fruits have been depleted in their fiber content to make them sweeter and more palatable. If you look at a banana from a few hundred years ago, it's probably nowhere near the banana that you're going to find at the supermarket. The same thing with apples. I think the seeds have probably gotten smaller. In fact, you can pretty much go into any supermarket, eat an entire apple and not even really feel the seeds if you eat all the way through it, including the stem. It's become so palatable, but in with that, they remove the fiber. So when you're eating the fruit, even though the world says it's great for you, there's problems. So you can look at that if you'd like. Please look at what the kind of sugar that's in fruit and see where it goes in your body. And from the research I've seen and I've heard, it very much mimics alcohol. And alcohol is an entirely another problem as well. So if you're drinking, expecting to do this, you might be able to get a little bit. But if you're drinking every night like I was and you're enjoying it and it just keeps continuing, that's a hard obstacle to get over too. So there's another addictive problem that you might want to put to rest. But first, the diet really is, the fasting for me was the best start. And then after that, the testosterone therapy came in. So where am I right now? So I went from 230 at my lowest body weight, still had the loose skin, that's still a problem. But then I'm up to 270 pounds, and that's about where I sit. I'll probably peel back to 260 or 255, but with the fasting, that takes a week or two, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks, just to get rid of 10, 15 pounds of actual pure body fat. Again, like I mentioned, the protein and the muscle, these are all my experiences now. I'm not a doctor, not a medical professional, not prescribing anything because I can't. So talk to your doctor before you do it. But when I peel off this weight, I do know that when I'm fasting, my body's not touching the muscle because I'm using the muscle every day in the workout. And if you're sitting at a desk sedentary, try to stand up, try to do some squats, try to do that every hour. Do some kind of movement throughout the day. Take 5-10 minutes per hour if you're sitting all day. You'll find a world of difference. Grab a couple water bottles and press them over your head. Grab some curls with the water bottles. Just very simple things, but just remain active. The people that are sitting in front of their machine, working, whether it's at home, telecommuting, or at an office, and they're focused there, you're not doing anything. If you look at the people in the past that used to sit down, they didn't sit down passively in a chair. They sat down actively squatting. So if you've tried to sit down and squat, I'm not going to embarrass myself because I think my knees are going to explode when I get that low. But it's something to consider, that more active rest. So if you're sitting at your computer doing that, great. But I'm not going to lose the muscle. I'm not going to, if I don't eat for a few days, I'm going to just attack that stored body fat, and that's how you get access to it. Look it up. Look at some of the videos that Jason Fung puts out, and from there you're going to find other people that talk about fasting. They talk about intermittent fasting, which basically means if you go to bed last night and your last meal was at 7 p.m., maybe not eating for another 16 or 20 hours and then having that next meal. If you're not used to fasting, what's going to end up happening is you're going to be so overwhelmingly hungry that your breakfast meal, even if it's again at 7 p.m. because you finished at 7 p.m. the day before, you're going to go to 7 p.m. the day after because you want to have this nice 24-hour break. If you're not used to it and you don't have control over yourself, and if you're fat, that's probably an issue. It's going to be a problem when you refeed. You're going to gorge so much food, eating more calories than probably you normally would if you would have maybe attacked your fat problem with caloric restriction. These are all things you need to prepare for and watch out for. It's just like the success. When I dropped all of that weight and got down to 230 pounds, I thought that was going to be it. I was going to be just happy walking around all the time. Well, that's not it. I do know after I got off that first 70, 80, 90 pounds, that was when life and my journey really began. Because then I could see changes. Then I could see stuff going on under the surface because my surface fat wasn't as much as it had been, increasing my visibility of what I'm looking at. And then you get into you crawl down all the other rabbit holes. Your length of time is very much dependent on how you prepare for your end. My end, I believe it's coming multiple lifetimes from now. I don't believe it's going to be in my 70s or 80s. I'm going to do my best to prevent it. And if we can get the whole world to look at their lives as far as longevity goes, trying to make each of us better, a better specimen of human being, at least health-wise, a lot of the other things would probably fall in place. I'm Connor with Honor. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.